Hello, folks. Welcome back to Ask the Expert. But Ask the Expert is now growing, and this is a new form of Ask the Expert where we are focusing on some very specific experts on a series that will teach you about one subject. And I'm so excited today, Brittany, to have someone that works closely with us, someone that I met through a mutual friend, and I call him a technology connoisseur. And he has a specific gift in the area of social media and social platforms. And I just think he is just marvelous and brilliant. His name is Lawrence Martin Pratt, and we call him Marty. And Marty, I want to welcome you to this newest iteration of Ask the Expert. You certainly are an expert. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Dr. Soares. And one of the things I enjoy about watching you work every week is that you're a consummate interviewer. You don't allow the topic or the person to stop you from asking what you want to know, which is a lot of what we want to know. So I'm excited to see your questions for me. So I was born and raised in Jersey. And in my high school days, I went to downtown Newark, Newark Tech downtown on West Market Street, and worked at Port Authority for New York, New Jersey a week. And then I went to school for a week, and it was during the late 80s. So at that time, I learned how to network an IBM XT computer and an IBM AT computer, and went to CPAs and helped them understand how to get rid of their green line paper and get rid of their long scientific calculator with something called SuperCalc on 123, which is before Lotus 123. And then something else called WordStar 2000, which is before WordPerfect and Word. And
Okay, now hold it, because Brittany's here, our co-host, a brilliant, lovely, articulate co-host. Now, Brittany, let me translate for you, okay? Because what Marty's talking about in the 80s, there were these machines you put on your desk. They were big, they were heavy. And when you turned on your computer, the whole screen was green, just green. And then when you typed, the letters and the numbers were like light green. So light green, dark green, and that was it. That was the desktop computer in the 80s. I didn't start using email until the early 90s. So I say that simply to say, first of all, Marty was doing this before you were born. That's number one. And the second reason I'm saying it is because all of what Marty's going to talk about in this series is really recent history. And a lot of the young people today assume it's always been here, but this is all recent history. And I remember WordPerfect, I remember Word, I remember all of those attempts to get people onto what they call the information highway that we now just call the internet. So Marty, you're a real veteran in this technology. So go on, tell us more about the evolution of Marty Pratt.
They call us tech OGs because they're following us around. And I'm blessed to have worked with, it really, I look back on my career, so to speak, very untraditional, never went to college, was offered a scholarship, but I was sick and tired of dealing with, people from Jersey understand this. I went to school in East Orange, and Newark. So I was tired of the school system. It just was not, it was 80s, so it was crack and everything. And we had teachers didn't care. So I was like, I'm out. And I ended up working for the Port Authority and then a law firm. And what happened was every time I went to another company, there was some breaking technology. And I just happened to be the guy that knew the breaking technology. So it was never a negotiation for a salary or based on anything other than my skill set and their need at that moment to know how to use Windows 3.1 or how to convert things from WordStar to WordPerfect, or as you said, the Oki data printer, the long printer that would go to convert from that to the laser printer. So a lot of times I got a great salary or I got a great offer because I happened to be one of the people who answered the New York Times, on Sunday. You get the New York Times and you look in the job section back then, classifieds, and you saw this ad and you actually had to write a letter, a cover letter, and put a stamp on it and put it in the mail and wait 2 or 3 weeks for somebody either to call you or just a letter would come back and say, you've been approved for an interview, come in.
Right. Now, Brittany, let me do some more translating.
Go for it.
Gotta set up this question. You see, back in those days, you had a program. There were no apps. If you had a program like WordPerfect, you would buy the program and it would come with this thick binder, and you'd have to read the binder. Many of those binders, by the way, had 2 or 3 different languages. And so the instructions would be in English. It would be, in the early days, I think, Japanese, sometimes French or German, which means that, Marty, you had to read those binders.
Yes.
If you had the expertise, you couldn't go online. There was no YouTube tutorial. You had to physically.
There was no Wikipedia.
Right. You had to read the binders yourself.
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. That again, it was I look at my grandmother and her family of what they instilled in us to be nice to people. So I was very nice to my computer teacher, Mr. Vishnu, who came directly from India. Because imagine now, this new immigrant from India is teaching at Newark Tech around the corner from West Side High. You know, it was rough in the 80s. So I walked Mr. Bishop to his car every day just to get more information from him. But I was also pretending like I was protecting him from the hood. So he was very grateful for me. So he always would give me more information and set me up for success. So I got to go to IBM to be trained on how to network their computers. When I got that invitation, it was only like a week or 2 week course, but I realized that you can write to other companies. So I wrote to Ashton Tate and all these other companies and said, hey, I'm in New York at the World Trade Center for this law firm. Is there a free training you have? And they either would fly you out or and I would use I was trained last year at IBM. I would use that as the intro to the letter. And so here was this kid who was graduated at 16, probably was 18 or 19 when I worked at the law firm, flying different places to the actual corporate headquarters and getting trained by them. So to your point, I never opened the binders. My binders were always in that sealed package, and I never opened them because I got the training from the company. And then they started something called PC Expo in New York at Jack and Javits.
Right.
And I was one of the first people that would always say, hey, Martin, you want to come by to have lunch? We want to show you our new software. And so it's really about connecting. And again, like I said, it wasn't for Katie Mae Johnson, my grandmother, teaching me to be very cordial to people, show them Southern hospitality and walk them to their door, ask them about their day, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the rest of the kids at Newark Tech was like, they would go on, and they were not sticking around school because it was a rough neighborhood and we would get beat up or threatened to be beat up by West Side on a daily basis.
Well, I'll tell you, Brittany, I think this is going to be a fascinating series. Martin Pratt can bridge the gap between where technology started for the average person and where it is today. And I think just based on what I've heard, Pratt is uniquely qualified because it's important to understand the present within the context of history. And when you can measure the trajectory that started back in the day, you can forecast the likelihood of certain things happening in the future. Malcolm Gladwell would probably call Pratt a connector, because in addition to all of his brilliance, he really uses it to connect people, which is how we got connected. So Pratt, thank you for getting us started. Brittany, tell us what you think we can expect from the Martin Pratt series under the Ask the Expert banner.
Yeah, Martin Marty, I'm so grateful that you described your background, because you shared with us why you have this ongoing love for new and innovative things. And I see it. It's really baked into your DNA. You've been doing it for decades, and it's so amazing, because Marty is always calling us, telling us, hey, there's this new thing on Facebook, or hey, there's this new AI thing, and I love it. And so Marty, you are the perfect person to describe all of this. So can you please share with us some of the wonderful things that you're going to describe to us about AI and where we are today? Because everyone is talking about AI.
Absolutely, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do so, because a quick funny story. I was told by the then second in command of the NAACP that I was too negative on WAIB radio, because, oh no, LIB, sorry, WLIB in New York. I was trying to get Black people to get computers in their home, and it was 99 and Y2K, and I was like, forget about Y2K. If we get left behind, we're never gonna. And he came to my office and left a book with my secretary called The Power of Positive Thinking. He was like, it's just, listen, you need to be a little more positive. You're gonna be on radio telling Black people about technology. You gotta be positive. So that's the lane I come from. When you said what you said, I'm like, oh yeah, that was brother Johnson that told me, to be a little bit more enthusiastic and not talk about the negative so much, about what we're not gonna have. That said, that frames my vision for what your question was, which is that yes, AI is here. Yes, it can be utilized, but it is also, as Elon Musk said, one of the most dangerous things that human beings are facing today is the unethical, irresponsible use of artificial intelligence. That's what AI stands for, artificial intelligence. So I come from the framework of being very in the middle, moderate, and balanced. I think AI can be used to season what you're doing, but it should not be the whole meal. So it's just like some good, basil, or some good oregano, or some good turmeric. It's that seasoning, or bay leaves, that brings out the flavor, but it should not be the whole meal. That said, there are a lot of forces that are pushing AI, and it's telling you you're going to see, ads and all kind of webinars and seminars that you can just drop what you're doing. You don't have to write the book. Just go to Chat GPT. That's one of the AIs. Chat, G as in George, P as in Paul, T, and to just tell it what you want, and it'll give it to you. So you want to write a course on how to deal with emotional trauma. And I saw this from my very own eyes. A woman was a therapist. She wanted to write a book on emotional trauma, but she was having difficulty. She went to the computer and typed on chat and said, I want to write a book about dealing with emotional trauma. Chat GPT gave her an excellent title, Emotional Resilience. So she typed in, I want to write a book on ... That's the prompt. And what gave her back was this title and 24 chapters already written out. And so she could literally cut and paste that into a format and then upload it to Amazon and sell her book. But the but part is, or the thing that I'm interested in making sure that our community very much overstands, is that we have unique life-centered experiences. They're very unique. Right now, ChatGPT doesn't have Black-centered life experiences.
Yeah, not all intelligence is emanating from empirical data. and all of us know this intuitively, we haven't thought about it this way, but most intelligence comes from emotional and cultural realities. And so if you don't have access to the emotional and the cultural realities, then the empirical data will miss who you are. Listen, next time, Pratt, I want to talk about the monetization. How do people make money off of ChatGPT, or how can ChatGPT support people in their efforts to make money? Because most people aren't going to ask it to write a 34-chapter book and then go out and try to sell it. But we're out of time today. I want to thank you for your willingness to do this. I see you as our in-house expert, and hopefully we'll help a lot of people as we go down this list of things that you know a lot about, that people hear about but don't have time to study on their own. So thank you. Brittany, thank you. And we look forward to the next segment of the Martin Pratt series.